Can you give me a hell yeah? It's not every day. The Texas Rattlesnake drops by your 20 by 20 studio, but that's where Hall of Famer, six-time WWE champion Stone Cold Steve Austin resides right now on the State of Combat podcast on CBS Sports. Steve, it's a pleasure. How the heck are you down there on 316 Gimmick Street?
Oh, hell yeah. Things are going awesome, man. Good to talk to you.
I want to ask you about your new show in a second, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the biggest topic in pro wrestling this week heading into WWE Survivor Series. It's the return of CM Punk to some degree as he signed on to be an analyst with Fox on WWE Backstage Tuesday nights on FS1. What was your reaction given the years of acrimony between him and the company? And do you think this leads to anything more?
Man, well, I don't know if it leads to anything more. I guess, speculation to be determined, and we'll find out. Just the fact that he's, returned to be doing business with WWE, I love, because I don't know, they split up on bad terms, and now they're back in business together. CM Punk was a lights out pro wrestler, great promos, great work, great talent. So to have him back in the fold, obviously, I guess they ironed whatever they need to iron out, and, both sides are happy. So it's great to have CM Punk back in the pro wrestling / sports entertainment business. I think it's a breath of fresh air, because the guy, brings a great perspective, great insight, and great opinion on all things sports entertainment.
Well, Steve, I want to slide from one legend in CM Punk to another in The Undertaker. And this Sunday, your new show makes its debut, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Broken Skull Sessions, Sunday night WWE Network after the conclusion of Survivor Series. And Steve, you want to talk about a one-on-one interview show and getting the big white whale. It's Mark Calloway, the great Undertaker, who in this era of ex-wrestler podcasts and shoot interviews just doesn't do something like this. How excited are you from this, from the standpoint of giving a man a forum to talk who's so underexposed on this type of level?
Man, just real excited, and I'm hoping that everybody enjoys watching it as much as I enjoy talking to Undertaker. And he was the first one out of the gate, so there's a little bit of a learning curve there. But man, to sit there and shoot the breeze with that guy who's kept stayed in the dark for so long, kayfabe in that gimmick and staying in character. I mean, he talks about staying in character for 30 years and how that ride was for him. And so for him to sit down across from me and to realize that we have a lot of things in common, and the guy is just such an open book, I think, he was ready to talk about some of the things that he's done, because everybody, like myself and other guys who have had a tremendous amount of success have been able to go out there and talk about all these exploits and all these things that they've accomplished, but he never has. And he's one of the guys that's been, one of the most successful guys in the history of the business. In my estimation, he's had one of the greatest runs ever, and to last so long. So the fact that he opens up and just sits there and he's as down to earth and as candid as he is very refreshing.
Steve, we only know from glimpses of the real Mark Calloway. We hear the legends of him being a locker room leader, but that gimmick has been so well protected over the years. Who's the real man behind The Undertaker from your experiences?
Man, the guy that I'm going to be talking to right after Survivor Series. And, when he first got presented that character, that gimmick, and you'll hear that story, and then how he navigated some of the waters, or who his one, guy he went to for some advice, Marv is Mark. And when Vince came up with that gimmick, with that character, I wholeheartedly believe, and I think you can talk to any of my peers in the wrestling business, if that gimmick, if that character would have been handed to anybody else, it would have been over in 1 to 5 years. Undertaker ran with that thing for close to 30 years. And the way he did it, to the changes he had to make, and you'll hear that in our talks, there's nobody that could pull off that gimmick, like he did. But I would dare say, with as athletic of in-ring style as he had back in his formative years when we would wrestle in the Sportatorium and World Class Championship Wrestling, he would take that style to the USWA and to WCW. Had he stayed that big athletic guy just trying to have great matches without that character, I don't know that he would have had the same success. I would almost guarantee he wouldn't have the same success. So it was the perfect marriage or merging of this great character with this tremendous athlete who just happened to be 6'9", 6'10", to pull it off, and all the things that had to come together as he kept his finger on the pulse the entire time of this one-of-a-kind ride to make the modifications or adjustments when necessary. It was amazing.
Yeah, Steve, speaking of great characters, obviously yours has had such a great influence on so many people. When I see the slight changes made to top WWE superstars over the past year, like Becky Lynch through becoming the Man, and even Kevin Owens borrowing the stunner from you, are you flattered to see these two characters take just a little pinch of what made the Texas Rattlesnake so memorable and using it to help them to get to a new level?
Oh, man, it's a huge honor, and to be able to help someone because, back before I got dropped on my head, I was a Ric Flair clone. Rick is the GOAT in my opinion, and I was trying to emulate his style. I wasn't trying to copy him. I was trying to use his style as it pertained to my athletic ability. And, getting dropped on my head was, I dare say I didn't enjoy that, but it was probably one of the best things that happened to me because I had to change my style to be more of a brawler and then combine the Stone Cold character with it. That made me, turn into the superstar that I ended up being. But it was Ric Flair, who I looked up to. And so, if Becky, and she's doing her own thing, and her promos, it's a different kind of promo, but just that swagger, maybe I inspired some of whatever she's doing. She's done it all on her own. And for Kevin Owens to bar the stunner, sometimes when I'll see that trademark stomp in the corner, I know that might have came from me, whoever's doing it, and everybody stomped everybody in the corner, but I had a way to do it. So when you see that your influence on the younger generation that's currently still out there doing it, it's very flattering, and you just want them to take it as far as they can go with it because you look for everybody that gets in the business to have great success, and sometimes the greatest technical workers, aren't the greatest success. It's the character people, or it's a combination of people. So anytime you can see something of yours that someone else has taken and ran with and improved or tweaked or made part of their own, go back to the super kick. Everybody's been doing the super kick, but when Sean started using it, hey, it was a real effective for him. So yeah, it's really cool.
Steve, the business right now is red hot again. Something you talk about on your podcast weekly. Yet at the same time, we've got so many lapsed pro wrestling fans who wish we were still back in the Attitude Era when you were at your peak. What do you think is one advantage that this modern era has that's different from the Attitude Era, and one thing that it's really lacking for those who want to go back in time?
Man, I think through the years they've created such a machine and such a well-oiled machine that I think that could be an advantage. The technology, the doctors, the training staff. I mean, guys and gals are pushing the envelope at an extremely high level. From an advantage from the Attitude Era would be sheer. It would be. What am I trying to say? Just a sheer sense of urgency that the show presented from when, like Nitro, Monday Night Wars, when that pyro came down and all those explosions, and there was Jim Ross yelling at the top of his lungs what was going to go down that night. Sense of urgency and like can't miss TV. I think, that's what the Attitude Era kind of had. But I just think, the system and the way the business operates these days, there's a lot of guys and gals getting opportunities, and you get a few chances, and you got to knock it out of the park to continue.
And Steve, right now WWE proper has more competition than going back to the Attitude Era from the idea of AEW, NWA, but really even in-house with NXT becoming a proper third brand, getting the live show weekly on USA Network and being featured so heavily heading into Sunday's Survivor Series card. Do you think this is a third boom period, so to speak, where you have competition, you've got almost a new territory system popping up?
Well, I believe in competition. I think competition is outstanding, and I love that we were competing with WCW. AEW is doing their own thing. I don't know if you've turned on to YouTube lately and seen some of the NWA Power kind of studio-style pro wrestling. That's pretty fresh. That's entertaining to see. But I love competition. I love the fact that NXT is on USA Network and not just on WWE Network. And so, yeah, they got a head-to-head thing going there. I think that's cool. AEW is doing their thing. WWE is doing theirs. And when you see kind of when the business was down a little bit a few years ago, to being where it is right now with so many federations out there, so many different shows, and the Tuesday show on Fox and the Friday Night SmackDown on Fox, I just think it's more guys and gals are getting paid in the business than a few years ago. So the fact that everybody's making money, I love it.
Absolutely, what a fun time. Steve, one of your old running mate, Shawn Michaels, had said for years he would never come back. Well, we saw him finally make that comeback in Saudi Arabia. You're 54 years old. You're always outspoken about not coming back ever again. How close did you come, though, in the interim that's passed since your retirement?
Man, not close at all. Not close at all. I'm done. No one in the wrestling business, or maybe nobody in show business, ever wants to. They always say, "Never say never." And hey, man, I was talking on an interview earlier when WWE rebooted Tough Enough. I love that because I was as close as I wanted to be to the business, man. And this is the business that I love more than anything in my life. So I got a chance to be a part of that. And I wasn't taking bumps. I wasn't getting beat up, but I was able to be, a little bit of Stone Cold Steve Austin and influential in trying to, help these kids start a career. And that's why I'm fired up about the Broken Skull sessions. I'm back close to the business. I'm rubbing shoulders and talking to some of the biggest stars in the business. I'm part of the company, and it's a company that helped put me on the map. And I did good things for them, too. But they put me on the map, so I just love being in business with WWE. And I get a chance to, live vicariously through, the stories that the superstars come on my show and talk to me about. So that's as close as I want to be, man. If you don't, I'm not saying that I don't have a stunner or two or a couple of right hands left in me. I'm not saying that. But a full-blown match, it ain't happening.
All right, one more, Steve. I want to take you out on this. You're on everybody's Mount Rushmore from the idea of the legends who define the business. Sometimes people are defined by decades. Bruno in the 60s and 70s, Hogan in the 80s, you and The Rock in the 90s, maybe John Cena in the early 2000s. This decade's coming to a close at the end of this calendar year. Who's the pro wrestler of this decade in your eyes?
Well, you can dang sure put Brock Lesnar on it because I think Brock is a guy. Could you give me a different name?
Oh, really? Roman Reigns is close, maybe. Maybe you like Kenny Omega. Maybe you like Daniel Bryan. I don't know, but Brock seems like a good one, Steve.
Well, Brock, people say, hey, he's part-time, this, that, or whatever. When Brock goes to the ring, I still get a sense of danger, or I don't really know what he's going to do. How often is he going to go to Suplex City? How bad could he really hurt somebody? What's he going to do with this opponent? Or what's his opponent going to do to try to dismantle him? Brock Lesnar creates more questions in my mind than anybody else walking to the ring. For the last 10 years right now, Cena is up there with the top of the top, just like you said. But moving past that, Brock Lesnar, when he walks into an arena, or hell, if he stepped into an octagon, you always wonder what's going to happen with that guy. So I got to say Brock Lesnar. He might not be around as much as many people would like, but as far as impact and sheer I got to watch this match factor. It's hard to say a guy higher than him.
Great answer indeed. You taught me, DTA, don't trust anybody, brother, but you can trust this Sunday night, November 24th, WWE Network. The debut episode is going to be hot. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Broken Skull Sessions, and it's The Undertaker going up and down the road after the conclusion of Survivor Series. Steve, great chatting with you. Can't wait to see what this new show is all about.
Thank you very much, man. Good talking to you.